The story begins in MIT, a well-known college in America. At this point, we see Professor Gerald teaching his math class. After the lecture was over, he told his students that I am going to write a very difficult maths questions on the board outside the class. And if any of you solves it, your name will be written in golden letters in the college. He also motivated his students by saying that some of my students have already solved this question and today they are at the top in their field. This question is very difficult. Seeing this, Professor Gerald gave him time till the end of the semester so that he could take his time and solve it. The lecture ended and then we saw a man named Will Hunting who worked as a cleaner there. He looked at the math problem the staff professor had written. Will later went home and started solving equation on the bathroom mirror. The next day, when he was all alone there, he picked up the chalk and wrote down the answer to the problem. This was a big deal because he answered this question in just one day. Apart from work, Will spent all his time hanging out with his friends. One day while watching a baseball game, Will saw a boy who used to harass him at school. Anger surged through Will as he watched. He went to that boy with his friends and started fighting. In the end, Will took revenge and beat the boy badly. To prevent the matter from escalating further, his friends stopped him. But by then the police arrived there, and when the policeman tried to stop him, he attacked the policeman, due to which he got arrested. On the other hand, Professor Gerald came to know that the math problem he had written had been solved. He immediately went to check and saw that someone had indeed solved his question correctly. He asked some of his intelligent students whether this was the work of any of them, but when those children also refused, the professor was shocked. Well, the professor's on next class was completely full. Everyone wanted to know who that unknown maths genius was. The professor said that whoever has solved this should come forward. I want to give him his price. But the whole class started looking at each other. No one moved forward. When no one came forward, the professor told his student that I am writing another maths problem which took me 2 years to solve. Now whoever among you is a maths genius will not be able to solve this in a day. Will, on the other hand, had just gotten out of jail. He did his cleaning work and immediately started solving the problem. At that moment, Gerald came out of his office and saw Will writing on the board. He tried to stop Will. I thought he might be writing something like that on the board. Seeing the professor coming towards him, Will ran away from there. Later, when the professor returned, he saw that Will had actually solved his problem, which took him 2 years to solve. This boy solved it in no time. Now he knew who that secret maths genius was. After work, Will met up with his friends and went back to bar to have a few drinks. Seeing some beautiful girls there, Will's friend Chucky went to them and started flirting. To impress the girls, Chucky lied that yes, I also study here in MIT. I am a genius. Then a man interrupted and asked, which class do you study in? In response to which Chucky said history. The boy understood that he was lying. He started insulting Chucky and deliberately started questioning him on history topics. The poor Will had nothing to offer, so he remained completely silent. That's when Will stepped forward for his friend and started debating the man. Once Will read something, he never forget it. His facts and language were so clear that he silenced the boy completely. Will also insulted the boy by saying that you have read it from that book. You speak absolutely memorize things. Will made fun of him and said that you are spending so many thousands of dollars. Still, when I have to speak memorize things, I have read this in the public library. After all this, the man mixed sesame seeds and went away from there. Later, one of the girls, named Skylar, came up to and gave him her phone number. Seeing Will's intelligence, Skylar liked him a little and said, "Call me someday when you have time." Will later showed the number to the boy who was trying to be smarter. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald was searching for the cleaner who had solved his difficult problem so easily. After some inquiry, he got Will's contact number and then went straight to Will's court hearing. A case was filed against him for assaulting a police officer. Will tried very hard to defend himself in court. But the judge said that you are already facing charges of theft and assault. The judge said that now I cannot ignore the scuffle with the police also. And finally the judge put him in jail, and if he wants to get bail then he will have to pay around $50,000. With this, Will was sent to jail. But there he met Professor Gerald, who had a deal for him. He told Will that I have talked to the judge and I am ready to get you released. But you will have to agree to my 2 conditions. The first condition was that Will take a math class with Professor Gerald. And the second condition was that he would have to undergo counseling. Will started laughing at this, but he didn't want to be in jail alone either. He had no option, so he accepted all the conditions. Soon he started his math class with Professor Gerald, who was amazed by Will's sharp mind. Now, as per the second condition, he will have to take counseling from a therapist. But no matter how many therapists he goes to, Will wouldn't open himself up to them. On top of that, he would start making even fun of him. He would read the books written by those therapists one day before and insult them the next day. And as a last resort, the Professor Gerald sought help from his old friend, Shay Maguire, who now taught psychology. In the beginning, Shay Maguire said that he did not have any time for all of this. But when Gerald tried to explain to her that the boy was very special, if he doesn't come on the right path, he will ruin his life. After hearing all this, Shay finally agreed and met Will, just like he did with his old therapists. Will had also read Shay's book, and now he started making fun of him according to his own understanding. But Shay maintained patience and had a completely normal conversation with Will, without asking anything about his life. Then Will's eyes fell on a painting that Shay's had painted himself. Looking at that painting and some art books, Will started saying nonsense about Shay's life. Shay still didn't pay much attention to Will's words. But then Will also brought Shay's wife into the topic of their conversation. Shay became a little angry at the mention of his wife. Will realized that Shay's weakness was his wife. So he started mentioning it again and again. He asked why the drunkard's wife was not there. Did she cheat and run away with someone else? Upon hearing this, Shay completely lost his temper and grabbed Will by the throat. He warned Will never to disrespect his wife. Then Will said Shay time is over. Shay left him and Will went out. Thinking he has broken down again, he consults a therapist. Seeing Shay's mood, Professor Gerald felt that he would not agree to do any more sessions. But he said, yes, I will counsel him. Bring it to me regularly from next week. After counseling, Will went on a date with Skylar. On the date, Will learned that Skylar came a very wealthy family and was currently studying at Harvard. Both of them spent a very good time with each other. They kissed each other at the end of their beautiful first date. When Will came to visit Shay the next, Shay said, let's go out and talk. Shay took Will to a park and started talking to him. He told Will that he thought a lot about what he said. In the end, I also realized that you are a small child in your mind who doesn't know what he is saying. You are a little rude. Shay told Will that I understand you don't want to talk. Maybe there is some fear inside you. But son, remember one thing, you will have to speak up someday. Otherwise you will lose all the good things in life. The next day, Will went to work at a construction site with his friend Chucky. He called Skylar, but he was afraid to talk. In his third therapy session with Shay, Will didn't say a word and Shay didn't either. Both remained silent for an entire hour. The fourth session also started in a similar manner where no one said anything. But then, bored, Will told Shay a joke. Taking this as a hint that Will might want to talk now, Shay asked him if he had a girlfriend. In response, Will told her about Skylar, how their first date went great, but now he can't talk to her. Shay asked why. So Will replied that I think Skylar is too good for me, and if I keep seeing her, everything will get ruined. Someday she will understand that I am not worthy of her. Shay explained to him that no one is better than anyone else. Everyone has some good and some bad things. But the important thing is whether that person is right for you or not. Explaining further about this, Shay spoke about his wife. He said that she was a very nice person. I loved her very much, but she would sometimes fart in her sleep. His words changed the atmosphere of the entire room. Both Will and Shay started laughing out loud. At this moment, they both came a little closer to each other, and Will now started feeling a little comfortable around Shay. The session ended and Shay advised me to go and talk to that girl. Will was so lost in Shay conversation that he had to be reminded that today's session was over. Let's go from here. Taking Shay's advice, Will went to Skylar's college and asked her out again. Skylar said, I want to go out with you, but I have a very difficult problem to solve, which may take several days. Will couldn't wait any longer, so he said to show me the question. As soon as he saw the question, he wrote the answer on a napkin in the blink of an eye. After this, Will said that now you have no excuse left. Come with me. During their second date, Skylar asked Will about his family and Will lied to her, saying he had 12 brothers. To which Skylar said, well, tell me a name. And Will quickly said 12 random names in sequence. Skylar suspected he was lying and said, just repeat the name once. But it's your Will genius. He said those names again in the same sequence. Well, Will met Shay at his next therapy session and asked if he ever regretted meeting his wife. Because after your wife's death, you must have become very lonely, and since you loved her so much, you must have felt a lot of pain. In response to this question, Shay told him how had he met his wife. The first time I saw her, she was waiting in line with her friends to get tickets to a baseball game. That was a very classic match, so Will said that you saw that game live. How lucky you are, friend. On this, Shane told that I saw the game later on TV. I left my friends to go on a date with that girl. The same girl who would later become his wife. Will couldn't believe that Shane had given up such a great game just to spend some time with a girl. On this, Shane said that I never regretted meeting him, even if she was in my life for only a few years. But those years were the most beautiful. Well, later Skylar said to Will, why don't you introduce me to your friends and family? Will still lied to her about his life, but he agreed to introduce her to his friends. Skylar, Will, and her friends met at a bar, and Skylar really liked Will's friends. They all had a great time with each other. Just then, Professor Gerald Shane Shaw to ask about Will's progress. Shane said Will is slowly starting to open up, but it will take some more time to make him completely comfortable. Professor Gerald said, I'm looking for a top-notch job for Will. He will crack the interview very easily, if only his mental problem gets cured. Then no one will be able to stop him from making a name for himself in the field of maths. Shane said, are you his father that you are taking life decisions for him? Let that boy do whatever he wants to do. He is a genius. This does not mean that you have to do this, only it is forced. But Professor Gerald said there was nothing more he could do. I won't let Will's talent go to waste. But Will wasn't interested in that kind of job. That's why he sent his friend Chacky to the interview in his place. One night while talking about their lives, Skylar told Will, will you come with me to California? Will started to panic when he heard Skylar say that. He couldn't go with her. My whole life is here. Skylar asked him, I know you love me, so why are you so afraid to come fully with me? And he never tells me this truth. He also told me that I know you lied, you have 12 brothers. Will lost his temper when this lie came to light. He said, what do you want to know about me? I am an orphan. There is no trace of the parents. I have spent most of my life bouncing from one family to another. The family I was kept with during my childhood used to beat me. He used to beat me like a dog. Skylar started crying and told Will that it's okay. I'm with you. I will be with you no matter what happens. But Will brushed him off and said I don't need anyone's help. Somewhere deep inside, Will was afraid that if he let someone get close to him and then that person left him, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Skylar cried and said, I love you so much. I will never leave you. But Will lied and said, I don't love you, and walked away. After this, he came out from her room and finally agreed to do job, leaving Skylar crying alone in her room. After much persuasion from Professor Gerald, Will finally agrees to the job. Will went the interview but didn't to get the job. In the therapy session, Shane asked him who he trusts the most in his life. Will replied, my friend was Chacky. Shane said, yes, I agree. He is your friend like a brother. He will even give his life for you. But life cannot be spent with friends. Then Shane asked him, how will you earn your living? On this, Will said that he would work for daily wages. I am very good at construction work. I will do it all my life. I will earn, I will eat. On this, Shane told Will that since you have worked as a laborer all your life, it has become your comfort zone. You are not afraid to get out of it. And this fear will prevent you from living a better life. Shane didn't tell him to do what Gerald is telling you to do to get a job. Rather, he asked Will, what do you want to do with your life? On this, Will joking said that I want to graze sheep and goats. Knowing that Will wasn't serious, Shane asked him to leave his office. He said, I don't want to waste my time. You will have free time. I don't have. If you can't answer honestly, then leave. Will got angry at this and started shouting at Shane. Shane asked again what he wanted to do with his life. Will remained silent again. He did not answer. Shane told him to go away from here. Go. Before Skylar left for California, Will called her to say goodbye. Skylar said, I love you one last time. Will smiled but didn't answer because of his fear. He still felt that I was bound to get my heart broken in the end. The next day, while talking to Chucky, Will said that he was not going to take any job, and now Skylar was also gone. Both brother will do construction work here. We will live comfortably in the neighborhood. Hearing this, Chacky expressed his heart's feelings. He told Will that, look, I will meet you here after 10 years, but if you do not meet me here after 10 years, then I will be very sad. Chucky said that I have only one dream. Every morning when I go to your house to pick you up, a voice comes from my heart saying that I wish I don't find this guy here today, doing something good with your life. On the other hand, Professor Gerald Shane was struggling as to why he was unable to convince Will to take the job. Shane said that we should not force Will to take such big decisions about his life. Right now he himself doesn't know what he wants to do. Shane explained that Will feared being abandoned. That's why he doesn't let people come near him. Gerald did not agree with him, because he told Shane not to let Will ruin her life. Do you want to make him a failure like you? To this, Shane replied that I am not a failure. I have chosen this life. I like it so much that I am happy. Just then Will came in and overheard their conversation. Professor Gerald left the room so the therapy could begin. Shane had a file today containing pictures of Will's body bearing the marks of his father's beatings. Will asked, "Have you ever seen a child beaten so brutally?" On this, Shane told that my father was a drunkard. Since childhood he used to beat me and my mother after drinking alcohol. Hearing Shane's story reminded Will of his childhood. Shane came in front of Will and said that whatever happened to you, son, it was not your fault. Will nodded in agreement, but Shane kept saying it wasn't your fault. Finally, Will said, I know. But Shane still kept speaking again and again. It was not your fault. Except this thing. Hearing this, Will was moved to tears. He pushed Shane and said again that whatever happened was not your past fault. And now, at last, Will broke down. He hugged Shane and started crying loudly. Now he was ready to leave his past behind and move on. He shows up to take one of the jobs Professor Gerald has lined up for him. With this, his last therapy session ended. Will asked if he could come over later if he felt like talking. On which Shane said that the doors are always open for you. After which Will hugged Shane and said goodbye. On his 21st birthday, his friends together gave him a car. The car wasn't new, but Will was very happy with the gift because it was from his best friends. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald went to Shane and apologized for calling him a failure. The two long-lost friends reunite and Shane reveals that he is going on a world tour. I understand that he doesn't earn that little money. When Shane was picking his things, Will pulled up outside her house and watched her get ready for the trip. Will walked up to the door of the house and left a letter in Shane's mailbox and them left. Meanwhile, Chucky went to Will's house to take him to work. He knocked on the door but there was no answer. He peeked out the window and saw that Will wasn't home. Chucky smiled and understood that Will had decided what he wanted to do with his life. Shays also finds the letter Will left. In the letter, Will wrote that he wasn't taking the job. He's going to California to visit Skylar. After reading this, Shane smiled and went inside. Happy ending of this movies.